Have a listen to this. Have a listen to this.
Now, that kind of talk this week dragged Australia's share market to a two-year low. There are, of course, complex reasons for that.
He was the big spender. The big spender.
Doing the grocery shopping could take a huge chunk out of the family budget.
And that's finance.
Hello and welcome to Comedian versus Economist. We demystify the world of money and help you get a handle on the bigger picture. My name's Adam and we're joined as always by my little older brother and real-life economist, Thomas. Hi, Thomas.
Yeah, g'day, Adam. How you doing?
Good, thank you. You always answer yeah at the start of that, to which no question has been asked.
It's sort of just affirmative, positive listening skills. I'm reinforcing that I'm engaged, I'm listening to what you're saying.
How you going? Yeah. Thomas, last week on the show, you said the OPEC oil crisis in the 70s came about as a result of Israel invading Palestine. Turns out not true. Sarah wrote in to let us know that it was in fact due to Egypt and Syria invading Israel. So I just want to give Sarah a shout out. Sarah did go to great lengths to say, look, you don't need to issue a correction on the show, but A, we love getting emails, B, we love learning, and the fact that Sarah was so nice about correcting us is really appreciated. So hopefully that clears things up. And, you know, let's be honest, we all like it when Thomas is wrong. So thank you, Sarah. Do really appreciate it. Of course, you can send us an email too if you like, cve@equitymates.com, or find us on socials at CVE Podcast. And Thomas, in fact, we have had a lot of emails and messages lately from everyone out there telling us how much you're enjoying the show, and we're super grateful for all of the support. So if you can leave us a rating or a review, that would be amazing. Or better yet, just tell your friends. It doesn't cost anything. Tell your friends when they inevitably ask you, hey, know any good podcasts? That'll help us keep doing what we're doing. We'd very much appreciate it. But on with the show, Thomas, and jobs data is out, and Geelong has the lowest unemployment rate in the country, which is not surprising if you watch their game against the Bombers on the weekend, because it looked like they were playing with an extra 25 players. Disappointing news for all us Bombers fans out there. Thomas, think about the last bakery pie you had, how tender and delicious it was. Now forget it. Inflation is going to hit pies and you're going to have to start eating black and gold frozen pies from the supermarket if you want a pie. That's coming up. And there's a brain drain happening with the current government, mainly because smart people are bored because the government won't let them do smart things. So they're all leaving. And a month on was the New York Times decision to buy Worlde a goodie decision or a baddie decision? Note that goodie and baddie are both 5-letter words you can use in your Wordle games if you like. They're also evidence of why I'm not very goody at Wordle. But Thomas, first I thought I'd check in. How are things looking for you in Mullumbimby?
Yeah, life's slowly coming back to normal. Things are still pretty hectic out in the hills. A lot of roads cut off, a lot of mudslides still to be sorted out. So still, a lot of communities isolated, a lot of people still homeless. A lot of houses getting condemned and becoming uninhabitable. So, yeah, it's still a pretty hard story, but we're slowly picking up the pieces and getting on with it. The big news last weekend, though, was that our Telstra tower caught fire.
I saw that.
Yeah, so we've had no phone coverage since Friday. Still out now on Monday night.
You wouldn't need phone coverage in a flood recovery, would you?
Yeah, no, actually, we working in the recovery centre doing comms, we actually found it quite inconvenient to not have access to phones.
I noticed you said also that the tower caught fire. It was not set on fire.
There's a lot of debate in Mullumbimby about why the Telstra tower caught fire. So
imagine. There's talk of the town. If only people could talk.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're the epicenter of anti-5G protest, and there's been a bit of a blockade around stopping Telstra from upgrading the tower to 5G.
Right.
And there was a bit of a rumour, which I learned is not true, that in the first week after the floods, that Telstra came in and sneakily upgraded the tower to 5G. but that wasn't true apparently. But that was that rumor was.
Telstra could not organise that. Have you ever called Telstra for assistance? They don't have guerrilla engineers ready to be deployed. Come on, people, get real.
Yeah, no, there were black helicopters flying in. Yeah. So the conclusion that everyone jumped to was that the 5G activists had set fire to the tower in retaliation.
Right.
Which for a lot of people was not a very popular move. But then the 5G groups came out and denied responsibility for it, said it wasn't them, and that it may in fact be a false flag operation on Telstra's behalf to cast aspersions on the anti-5G crew.
Are they a terrorist organisation? Denying and claiming responsibility?
Yeah, well, Telstra's running black flag ops, so it's
wow.
Who knows? So it's crazy times here in Mullumbimby, but we don't have phone coverage, so that's making it tricky.
I'm conscious though, Thomas, that we always we can be swayed by the media and just assume there's only one side to any story, and so a lot of people obviously, throwing mud at the 5G groups, the anti-5G groups, anti-vaxxers, whoever else you want to throw into that pile. So there is a criminal investigation still underway, I believe. So I thought it would be worth just exploring some plausible explanations. I've put together a few plausible explanations that I wouldn't mind just getting you to just have a think about and see which one you think might be the most likely. So number one is that the internet was already down, and by the time they'd arranged for someone to sort it out, they'd already deployed that person to climb the tallest point in the town and light a fire to alert nearby villagers to the need for help. So those things take a little while to mobilise. So it's possible that during the flood, someone said, "We need to get help. Johnny, you run to the top of the tallest tower you can find and light a fire, and hopefully someone will see it." That's number one. Right. Number two is it was a big disaster. There's no denying that. And when these things happen, people like to light candles and have candlelight vigils for the people who are suffering in the disasters. So I'm thinking a disaster this size calls for a big ass candle. Could be a sympathy candle, is what I'm saying. Number three, the floods, they've subsided thankfully, but you'd be well aware there's a bit of a stench around. There's a lot of bad smells from all the mud, from the mould, the mildew that's growing. This one seems most likely to me, is that someone in Mullumbimby has tried to create the biggest incense candle to cover the whole town in rosemary.
Yeah. It is quite lavendery at the moment.
There you go. Yeah. That's it. All right, Thomas, jobs data was out this week and unemployment has dropped to a near 14-year low of 4%. What did we learn?
4.0% on the nose, very tidy number. Yeah, another strong result, added 77,000 new jobs. So that's a very strong number. Tonk that in. Yeah, it's just a strong story across the board. The labour market continues to be very strong. Full-time jobs. So often, labour market recovery, you get a pickup in part-time jobs, and it takes a while for that to morph into full-time employment. But not this time around. We've gone full-time jobs are up 4% on their pre-pandemic levels versus 0.5% for part-time jobs. So, yeah, full-time employment's up and labour force participation is at a record high. So that's another interesting story. Like you look at what's happening in the UK and the US, participation rate fell in the early days of the pandemic and then bounced back, but it's still a full percentage point lower than where it was pre-COVID. So a lot of people, we talked about in the US about the Great Resignation and so we haven't seen that in Australia, and we haven't seen a fall in participation. Participation's, in fact, actually gone higher and is at record high. So that's really interesting.
Don't they go hand in hand? Unemployment and participation? You get more people participating, then you've got less unemployment. It's
no.
basic maths.
Yeah, except the maths is wrong.
That's why it's basic.
Very basic maths. That's what they put you into, wasn't it? Basic maths. Maths in society or something.
Social maths.
Social maths. No, it's not quite right. Because like if you're not participating in the labor force, so if you're unemployed but you're not actually looking for work, you're not counted. And so people you have this discouragement effect where people go, oh, there's no jobs out there, I'm not even going to bother looking. Yeah, so it's not necessarily the case that it works like that. So, but in this case, yeah, it is strong. There maybe is a bit of an encouraged worker effect where the low unemployment rate is pulling people back into the labour market. Maybe that's going on. When you break it down, it's also interesting is that pickup in participation is largely about women. So male participation is about where it was pre-COVID, but female participation is significantly higher.
Right.
Yeah, so it's been a good jobs market for women in particular since COVID.
Do we have any idea why that is?
Yeah, I don't know. I did a little looking at this and didn't really come up with much. Of the 377,000 jobs we've added since COVID started, 65% of those have been to women. Wow. So women are catching it, So it's like 50% your benchmark there. So it's not massively more, but significant. But then if you break it down by industries, it's not necessarily the case that it's, your female-focused industries. But they're also, like we used to look at that.
It's a lot cheaper to hire women. You don't have, with the gender pay gap.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Maybe that's it. Maybe, firms are worried about the wages bill.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought need an engineer, but I think I might just go out and get a female engineer because it's cheaper.
Yeah, see what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Structural inequality is still definitely a feature of the labour market. But I don't know. I haven't seen a good explanation for that.
So the pandemic sent a lot of people home, and so we don't have all the foreign workers that we perhaps did have pre-pandemic. Does that play into these numbers a bit as well? Like, I mean, are a lot of jobs that would have been filled by overseas people now available to local people? I
think you definitely have to read that out of the numbers. Like if you look at total employment, it's higher than it was pre-pandemic, but it's below trend. So if you look at where the trend was going, we would have expected to have more jobs by now.
Right.
You would have expected to have created more jobs over the past 2 and a bit years than we have. So we haven't done that. So in that sense, the labour market has underperformed trend in terms of its job creation, but unemployment has fallen. The unemployment rate has fallen. And that's because there's less people in the labour market than there would have been because we've had negative immigration since the pandemic, really. So I think that's definitely a feature, yeah.
Because I saw we had the South Australian elections last weekend, and the outgoing Premier Stephen Marshall, he was talking about what a great job they'd done. They'd got unemployment down to 5%, which sounds amazing, but it's like one of the highest in the country. In fact, it is the highest in the country. But it felt a bit like Blind Freddie could have done it. Yeah, did you? Did you? Like, didn't just everyone leave, and that just meant there was jobs for everyone, and like, it's a bit like buying into a bull market. Like you kind of feel like a genius because you're like, I bought this stock and it went up. It's like, yeah, they all went up. Trying to drive unemployment down when the whole country's unemployment is all heading down doesn't make you a genius premier.
Economic manager. And state governments have very little impact on the unemployment rate. Largely, there's sort of stuff you can do, but the whole idea that governments are economic managers is a bit of a myth that governments like to tell about themselves. Like, there's not that much management going on. They administer the public service, and that's a large and complex task, but there's only so many levers that they have to pull on, and largely they're sort of set to run automatically. There's not that much room for management as they'd like to pretend there is.
Oh, well, listen to Mr. Economist just slinging it to the government.
Yeah.
I did see arts and recreation has one of the highest levels of unemployment, and it just got me thinking, like, hasn't that always been the case? I remember talking to an actor friend of mine, and I told him about a casting call for an ad, and he was like, I don't do ads, I'm a thespian. I'm like, you're unemployed, mate. That's what you are. Like, I don't know how we measure unemployment in the arts anyway. Like, just too many corporate gigs going unfilled, missing out on good quality stand-up.
There's measures of underemployment, which includes, and that captures people who are working but want to be working more hours.
Right.
So I reckon underemployment in the arts and entertainment industry is rife because people might have gigs but they want to be doing more.
They want to be doing more. Right, maybe that's what well, it's possible. I'm pretty good at reading though, so it's unlikely that I...
Yeah, but you're not good at maths.
All right, Thomas, I actually did read an AFR article last week and it was talking about supermarket inflation, the price of everything going up. But I think it was a thinly veiled attempt at talking about the price of pies, to be honest, because it was mostly about pies, which is what piqued my interest. One of the claims in the article was that supermarkets are somehow going to benefit from inflation. So I'm curious because my understanding is the inflation's pushing up their costs. And they're then having to pass on the costs to the customer. So don't their margins pretty much just remain the same? Like, they're not going to make more money because they sell things at a higher price if they're buying them at a higher price. Am I crazy?
No, I think you're right there. Like I had to sort of unpack the logic here, and I think what they're saying. So this comes from Jarden's head of research, Ben Gilbert. They were quoting him, and he was saying that the supermarket chains will benefit from inflation that will lead into their margins. But I think what he was saying is that they're going to raise prices with the cost pressures that are in the system now in response to that. But then coming into the next financial year, all the costs that they had around COVID and losing staff and managing shutdowns and all that sort of stuff, those costs are going to recede. And so you're going to have, so they'll lift prices in response to current price pressures, and then as those costs recede, that'll buffer their margins.
Right.
And they won't drop their prices that quickly. They'll hold on to it, which is what I think he's saying, that they'll hold on to their margins.
So they probably won't make the money yet. It'll come later when everyone's used to paying, $8 a litre for milk. Then they won't return it back to whatever it is now, $1 a litre for milk. They'll just drop it to $5 and tell everyone they've slashed the price of milk. We've gone crazy. Milk now only $5 a litre. Right, well, that makes some sense.
Yeah, I think that's what they're saying. Like, there's no direct line. Like, what you're saying is right. Like, as their costs, their profits are determined by their margin. So the margin is the price they sell over what they paid for it. What they're paying for it is going up because costs are increasing across the board. Yeah, but if they just raise prices proportionally, that doesn't affect their margins.
If we get into the meat of the issue, though, that is the fact that pies are going to go up between 6 and 20%, Thomas. In fact, I had a quick look at the Adelaide Oval, and pies are $5 this season, which is even higher than the MCG. It's outrageous.
That seems quite cheap for a pie. Is that really what they are?
They're not good pies.
Not good. Okay, fair enough. I'm paying $5 for a coffee.
You'll also pay $5 for a coffee at the Adelaide Oval.
Wow, right.
What's interesting though is that if the price of pies is going up, and there's a company called Paddy's that make all the pies. I don't know. I thought they'd be a much better fit if they made hamburgers. Paddy's make pies, so they have I forget a number of different pie companies.
4 and 20.
4 and 20.
Adams, Nanas.
Yeah, all the big heavy hitters in the pie industry. So they said that even though pies were going up, they would still be viewed as good value by consumers even after the price rises, which just says to me, what an amazing level of commitment we have in this country to pies. Like, even after the price of pies goes up 20%, we still think that smashed up meat inside some pastry is good value.
The CEO of Paddy's Foods did say, we haven't seen any drop-off in demand at this stage. They've hiked it 20%, hasn't changed demand. We say that's completely price inelastic. Consumers are completely indifferent to the price of pies. They'll just keep buying pies.
Yeah, kids don't need childcare. Keep them home. Eat pies.
Yeah.
They said, though, in an inflationary environment, consumers may also trade down to less premium and cheaper products. I don't think you want to take that gamble on a pie. If you're getting if you're getting your kind of run-of-the-mill, middle-of-the-road pie, just pay the premium, pay the extra 20%. Don't go... You don't know what's in it anyway. Don't go down to your less premium pies.
What is it even down the price chain from pies, like dog food or something?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm lucky in my house. My kids, I guess sausage rolls are in the same boat. My kids, I've realised, will only eat the sausage rolls, the frozen ones from Aldi. I've tried them on the premium sausage rolls from the bakery. Beautiful sausage rolls, like puffy pastry and nice sausage. No, they won't have it. It's too I don't know. It's too flavoursome. They want that genuine gruel flavour that you can only get from an Aldi frozen sausage roll. So hopefully they stay on the budget brands as long as they're living with us. That's all I can help. All right. On that note, I'm going to go get a pie. Why don't you do as well and come back and join us for more Comedian versus Economist right after this. Welcome back. You're on Comedian versus Economist. You can, of course, send us an email, cve@equitymates.com, or get us on Instagram and Facebook @CVE Podcast. Thomas, there's a brain drain happening within the government. Plenty of experts currently working for the government or recently working for the government are all leaving to go to the private industry. What's happening there?
Yeah, a bit of a shift. So something that AFR noted as a trend. So the big news of the past couple of weeks is Guy Debelle, who was the Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank. He left the bank to go and work for Fortescue Future Industries, take on that private sector role. So it was interesting in the sense that Debelle was probably due to be the next governor. Pretty solid. There's a good chance he would have got the last job, but Phil Lowe got it instead. And you could pretty much guarantee that Guy Debelle's going to get it next. Is there
any chance that Guy Debelle was just watching everybody not believing anything that Phil Lowe says and just went, you know what? I'm not signing up for that. I want to be listened to. I want to be taken seriously.
The guy is a brain. I used to work. He was there when I was at the bank, and he has a seriously intimidating intellect. Like He's a phenomenon. Yeah.
Some of us do.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to see you two in the same room together. Oh.
Wouldn't that be a meeting of the minds?
Oh.
Want a pie, guy?
So anyway, he's packed it all in, and it's interesting. Like, he could have been the next governor. He only had to probably wait a few years for that. They get 6-year terms. But he said, no, I'm not going to be the next governor. I'm going to go work on climate. I'm going to go work on climate change issues.
Right.
It's a really interesting move. And really interesting that he's like, where we're at right now, current times, it just feels more important to get involved in this than it does managing the monetary system of an entire nation. I've got a lot of respect for that.
Yeah. Is it possible, though, that he's also frustrated at the government's lack of action on climate change?
I would suspect so, yeah.
If you were a climate sort of, I don't know, an activist by heart, or you were looking to make tangible difference.
Or you just like living on the planet.
I'll settle down, hippie. He likes the climate, he likes the environment, and he's looking at Scotty and he's going, Scotty, you're giving me nothing, I'm out. Is that's what's happening too?
To extent, I mean, the central bank is not a vehicle for climate action, and it's probably not the right place for climate action. Like, you don't want that. It's good that the RBA is focused on monetary policy. I think you don't want them getting into trying to influence climate policy. Planting trees. Yeah. I mean, I know some people doing some great work in there, but like, they look at it in terms of its financial stability risk. They don't have policy levers there to influence climate or the climate debate. And so I think Debelle's saying, I've got a massive brain in my head. I'm going to go apply my talents to the coalface of climate change.
So he's cocky as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You wait till you meet him. He's not.
So now we've got me, Phil Lowe, and Guy Debelle coming around for dinner.
Yeah, hope they like pies. Yeah. The AFR is saying the climate is the new black in terms of economics. So, when I was at university, the most exciting career available to you was probably to work with the Reserve Bank. That was exciting. Everyone's interested in monetary policy. It's an exciting place to be a public sector economist. Now they're saying the mood's shifted. It's more
very low.
interesting.
It's a very low bar. I've got to be honest. The most exciting place you could dream of being. The best thing you could come up with your brain. You're a smart man, Thomas. The most exciting thing you could think of doing while you're at uni ploughing through your economics degree was going to work for the RBA. Right. Good, carry on.
Yeah. No, it is. It's exciting. It's interesting. Like, at Guy's level, Guy DeBell's level, it would be very exciting work. But it's more exciting to go and save the planet, which, and it's probably right. Like, it is a really interesting time. The private sector is having to get on board in the absence of good leadership out of the public, out of policymakers. So it's an exciting time, and the stakes are really high. And I think Guy DeBell's going to do some incredible work. So, hats off to him.
I did just notice we had a listener email this week too from Dylan. Dylan was asking about, is there a better measure? There's quite a long email, thank you, Dylan, but I'll try and summarise. But essentially, is there a better measure of GDP that brings in other factors like the environment? Like, do we have any sort of ways of measuring GDP that take in maybe some more factors than we do now?
Yeah, there is streams of economics that try to capture this. What you call them externalities and negative externalities. And so in a transaction, there's parties involved in the transaction, but then there can be parties that are affected by the transaction that are not a part of it. And so they're affected by externalities. They're external to the transaction. So pollution's an example. I buy some steel or whatever from a steel mill, steel produces pollution. That pollution's not captured in the transaction, but it affects people outside of it.
Right.
There is a sort of a discipline in economics that tries to capture that and try to put monetary values on things to try to bring it into the system.
Right.
It's not neat work because how do you value a tree, or how do you value a koala, or how do you value X tons of CO2 emissions? Like, it's not neat work. The price isn't set by the market. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know.
So,
I sold a koala recently. It cost just $50.
there you go.
That's what a koala costs. He did also ask, he's just trying to get a handle on economics, so that's why he's listening to the show. Thank you, Dylan. He got an old economics textbook from the 90s that he picked up in an op shop. He was wondering what other resources there might be available. Dylan, I'd suggest you go and listen to the first season of Comedian versus Economist, where we unpicked all of the basics of the economy and economics. That'd be a good place to start. Season 1, even cheaper than an op shop too. So can't go wrong. All right, Thomas, do you play Worlde?
No, I don't. I've seen you play it though on holidays.
It's because you're not as smart as I am, Thomas. That's too hard for you. No, I'm a regular Worlde player. It's about the only intellectual thing that I do each day. Basically, if you're not familiar with Wordles, you have to guess a 5-letter word by essentially ruling out wrong and misplaced letters. And it's hugely popular. Like, Anna put me onto it, my wife, and I kind of know, like, that's my kind of barometer for popularity things, because she'll just they'll reach her before they reach me, because my news feed's like mostly Formula One. So, yeah, hugely popular. There's about, I think they're saying about 300,000 individual players every day. It was started by a guy called Josh Worlde. And Josh Worlde, that's where the play on the words on the title Worlde comes from, was from his last name. Josh Worlde invented it to give his wife something to do, which sounds really lovely, but Josh, just maybe take her out for dinner or something, maybe do something nice, converse for a little while. But no, he decided he would write an app instead of talking to his wife. So he made Worlde the game, and it quickly grew to like huge popularity. They don't release player numbers; they have to go off like Twitter mentions and stuff. But once they started being able to share it, you could share your Worlde results and your streaks and whatever. So it went gangbusters, and then about a month ago, the New York Times bought Worlde for unknown, but a cash amount somewhere in the low 7 figures, so into the millions of dollars. So, Thomas, what I want to know is, why is the New York Times paying millions of dollars for a word puzzle game?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the model that they're working with. The short answer is is an advertising play, and they're just buying a captive market. And the product that they're selling is subscriptions. It's one of the stories that I think people don't realize about the media landscape is that, their profits and their revenues were smashed by the onset of the internet. We all know that story. But the New York Times went to a subscription model in 2011. They were one of the first papers to do that. And the subscription model is working. They're doing pretty well. The major mastheads get most of their revenue from subscriptions. In 2020, the subscription revenues were back at 2006 levels for the first time. So they're on the rise.
Because they were down, apparently 80% was advertising revenue in 2006. And they fell to 45% of revenue. So newspapers can't rely on ads anymore, so it used to be their main breadwinner. So then they have to have subscriptions, right?
Yeah, and they seem to be making that play work. And when you're selling subscriptions, then it's just a marketing question, and you need to get. And Worlde users seem to be pretty engaged, and so maybe there's a way. I don't know. You play it. Are they trying to funnel you into a New York Times subscription? New York Times also has a game center as well, so there may be a soft sell to that.
Yeah, I think I've defeated their model through my clever use of bookmarks. Because I just I've got the Worlde page bookmarked, and I just go there.
It's not an app.
No, it's not an app. It's just it's on their website. It's in amongst some other games. If you wanted to go sort of back up the tree. But I've just got the page bookmarked. So there's no ads, there's no cross-selling, there's no upselling, there's no, hey, why don't you think about a New York Times subscription?
Did you even know they were owned by New York Times before?
Yeah, I did, because I lost my progress when they changed over, when the New York Times bought it, and I was in the middle of playing at the time, and then my screen just refreshed and, threw my phone at the wall. Because I'm addicted to Worlde. No, I didn't really. I don't know. I was just fascinated by what they were getting out of it. So they put all this money into it. The other interesting thing too is that Wordle's dropping off. They bought right at the peak from the looks of things. They bought right at the top of the hype cycle.
See, I wonder if that's true. I mean, I did read someone saying that the only metric that we've got on Worlde users is the number of Twitter mentions that it's getting.
Yeah.
And someone's saying that the Twitter mentions are falling because Wordle's getting harder and people are having less glory to share to their Twitter feeds. 300,000 users, that includes you, all the way out here in Australia, it's pretty well known, right? I haven't played it, but I've heard of it.
No, it'd be too hard.
It's got to be, yeah, but it's got to be more than 300,000, surely.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but I don't think I agree that it's getting harder. I think the word today was there, THEIR. It's not. Maybe it's hard.
A lot of people get that wrong. I don't know, but I'm surprised there's not some push to. I don't know. Do you need to register? Do you?
No.
To have access to any of your data? No, just rock up and play.
Just rock up, play. Maybe it'll come. They just onboarded it. These guys making $2 billion annual revenue for the New York Times. So, a couple of mil, whatever it was, doesn't matter. Even if they sell a few more subscriptions. So maybe it's just a benevolence thing. They're just it's reputation.
I did see someone saying that if they paid $3 million for it, and it doesn't sound like they paid that much, but even at $3 million, if they can convert 10% of players to a New York Times subscriptions, 10% of that 300,000, then that pays for itself in a year.
Maybe they'll just start dropping subversive words into Worlde, NY time was the answer today. Well, that doesn't even fit. I told you I was no good. All right, look, why don't we leave it there? We've got pies to eat, Worlde to play, lots for you to get on with. Thank you for joining us once again on Comedian versus Economist. Of course, there are lots of other great shows across Equity Mates Media. Get Started Investing, Equity Mates Investing Podcast, You're in Good Company, Talk Money to Me, Crypto Curious, and don't forget FinFest happening October 22nd this year. Head to equitymates.com/FinFest for all the details. Thank you once again, Thomas, for your input.
Thank you.
Comedian vs. Economist is a product of Equity Mates Media. All information in this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional finance, legal, or tax advice. The hosts of Comedian vs. Economist are not financial professionals and are not aware of your personal financial circumstances. Before making any financial decisions, you should read the product disclosure statement and, if necessary, consult a licensed financial professional. Do not take financial advice from a podcast. For more information, head to the disclaimer page on the Equity Mates website, where you can find ASIC resources and find a registered financial professional near you. In the spirit of reconciliation, Equity Mates Media and the hosts of Comedian V Economist acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today.